Hello, my name is What is Moo, and this is going to be a field guide to the Yankee Class submarine. With that out of the way, let's dive right in. First, some general submarine recognition features. You have the shape of the bow, the sail, the deck, and the hull both fore and aft of the conning tower, as well as the tailplanes. The Project 667 class submarine, known to NATO as the Yankee, was the first Soviet SSBN class featuring the missiles in the hull rather than the sail. They built 34 boats in the class between 1964 and 73. They're roughly equivalent to the American George Washington class SSBNs, so much so that Soviet sailors nicknamed them Georgie or American George. It is important to place historical objects within the context that surrounded them. Submarines are not naturally occurring phenomena, and the development of the Yankee class was rooted in, to borrow a word from the Annales School of Historiography, the mentalité of the Soviets. Therefore, in order to understand the Yankee class, I will briefly digress to discuss the Soviet perspective on nuclear deterrence. The Yankee class emerged from the Soviet desire to equal and exceed NATO, but especially American strategic nuclear capabilities. There are two broad reasons for this. The first is a profound national memory of the cataclysm of the Nazi invasion of 1941. This tragedy seared into the Soviet military consciousness the need to never again be surprised, never be caught flat-footed and under-equipped. The second reason the Soviets sought nuclear supremacy was revealed by post-Cold War interviews detailed in the two-volume Hines report. They explained how the USSR analyzed mutually assured destruction, and in large part due to the mentioned memory of Barbarossa, categorically rejected any state of mutual vulnerability. To quote Colonel General Andrian Danilovich, architect along with Marshal Nikolai Ogarkov of the late Cold War Soviet military doctrine and strategy, in theory, we may have the possibility to totally destroy the US and vice versa. But in practice, this may not happen. In practice, the result could be completely unexpected. In the military art, it is impossible to make predictions because things may go otherwise than you had planned. Although with nuclear weapons, everything is subject to analysis, calculations, you can say exactly what damage there will be, etc. But in practice, things may go otherwise, and it is fear of that otherwise that forces us to modernize nuclear weapons, the control systems, develop various options for their use, etc. Started as part of the normal process of force modernization, the Project 667 Sans Suffix was an unusual design carrying 8 SSN-5 SARC, also known as the D-5, the R-21, or RK-55 missiles in rotating launchers. Unusually, it was set up to fuel the missile inside the submarine prior to launch. The system was supposed to be able to reload at sea from a magazine of 8 further missiles. The entire system was laughably overcomplex. The advent of the George Washington SSBNs led the Soviets to conduct a mathematical analysis comparing how many of the deeply flawed Project 667 boats would be needed to attain parity with the American force. To quote Yuri Apalkov's Submarines of the Soviet Navy, 1945 to 1991, an elementary calculation showed that to achieve parity, for each American SSBN, it would be necessary to build at least 2 of the notoriously technically imperfect submarines, an unsustainable burden for the country's economy. In 1962, after promising results from the D-5 or R-27 or SSN-6 Serb missile, TSKB-18 shifted design work to Project 667A under the direction of Kovalev, chief designer of the Hotel class of SSBNs. A far more conventional design, they were produced in large numbers, 34 boats, and at great speed, peaking in 1970 with 8 boats launched in a single calendar year, 6 from the Sevmash yard alone. Because they're so plentiful, there are many subvariants and retrofits made to the Yankees throughout their service. They amount to as follows. The original Project 667A Naviga class SSBNs, known to NATO as the Yankee 1. The improved 667AU Nalim class SSBN, also known as the Yankee 1 to NATO, despite some pretty notable upgrades. The single boat Project 667AM Naviga M for modernized SSBN, known to NATO as the Yankee 2. The 667AT Grusha class, meaning pair, cruise missile submarines known to NATO as the Yankee Notch. The Project 667AN, or Project 09774 nuclear auxiliary mothership submarines, known to NATO as the Yankee Stretch SSAN. Note that this is a unique mission without a corresponding U.S. Navy hull classification and will be explained in more depth later. The 667M Andromeda class SSGN, the Yankee Sidecar. The Project 667AK Axon 1, Yankee Pod, and finally the Project 09780 Axon 2, the Yankee Big Nose. Now that you know their names, let's match them to some faces, starting with the original Project 667A Naviga, the Yankee 1. Named for a smaller member of the cod family native to the Kola, Barents, and White Seas, the Yankee 1 or Naviga class, seen here from a Royal Navy anti-submarine warfare helicopter, has several distinct recognition features. Take note of the open bridge on top of the sail, the missile doors along the hump, the transition from hump to hull being a straight line, the hump having a single step, the bow-tie-shaped fairing for the under-ice sonar system, and the sensor ahead of the sail, which is part of the non-acoustic detection system, present on many boats in the class, though the exact model and shape varies over time. The Yankees were the first Soviet nuclear missile submarine class where the surface seakeeping characteristics were not a major design consideration, and crews rightly regarded them as relatively poor seaboats when running on the surface. On the other hand, compared to the contemporary George Washington class, the Yankees were faster, deeper diving, estimates around 1,000 feet, and could launch missiles faster from deeper, while moving faster. All of this came at the expense of noise, with the Yankee 1 being regarded as approximately as noisy as the Skipjack and George Washington classes, much to Kovalev's dismay. From the side, the distinctive sail shape of the 667A becomes apparent, with sharp top corners fore and aft, a slight curve to the sail roof, and a straight back and front of the sail, perpendicular to the hull. This image is of an emergency surfacing exercise from a Soviet newspaper. To raise Sergei Nikitich's spirits, later boats were built or upgraded to the 667AU standard, with no change to the NATO designation. Seen here is the rather infamous K219 showing off her wardrobe malfunction, as well as the new enclosed bridge and retained under-ice sonar fairing, and a minor recontouring of the forward top corner of the sail. The other differences between 667A and 667AU are in the electronic systems, and not readily apparent. Here are some more photos demonstrating the changes to the sail, which are the most visible indication of the Project 667AU boats. Just ahead of the sail in the right-hand picture, you can see the non-acoustic detection sensor without the cage fitted over it, as in the one on the left. This isn't confirmed, but I suspect the cage is simply to protect the sensors from damage when surfaced. Now we have the 667AM, the final nuclear ballistic missile submarine variant of the Yankee class, known as the Yankee 2 in the West. It was a single-ship testbed class largely identical to the Yankee 1, with a modified missile compartment to fit the RSM-45 or R-31 solid fuel SLBM, known to NATO as the SSN-17 Snipe. The first for the Soviet Navy. The most visible recognition feature of the Yankee 2 is the very distinctive two-step humpback. We're now at my personal favorite submarine, the Yankee Notch, Project 667AT Grusha or Pear class. They were a class of SSN or arguably SSGN built around the OKB Novator S-10 Granat missile, Grau Index 3M10, NATO codename SSN-21 Samson. It is a submarine-launched cruise missile roughly equivalent to the Block 1 UGM-109A Tomahawk land attack missile nuclear. In the Soviet view, this was an operational or strategic cruise missile, and it had a 1 to 200 kiloton warhead, 3,000 kilometer range, a CEP of between 45 and 150 meters, and was submarine launched. As part of the conversion process, the boats in this class had their missile compartments removed and replaced with 8 533mm torpedo tubes amidships with stowage for 32 to 40 SSN-21 cruise missiles or other torpedoes. This addition lengthened them by about 12 meters, but it's hard to judge this without a frame of reference. Their total torpedo armament is between 50 and 72 torpedoes, in 14 tubes, as they retained the Yankees' original 6 tubes in the bow. To my knowledge, this is the most ever put on a submarine. They also received upgrades to their sensor fit, electronic systems, and noise reduction. 3 pairs were built, with 3 additional planned. However, the post-Soviet economic collapse resulted in 2 canceled before production started, 1 canceled on the slip. This left only 3 boats in the class, with all of them out of service by the late 90s, early 2000s, and scrapped by 2006. The recognition features of the Yankee Notch include a different non-acoustic detection sensor to earlier boats, the distinctive midships notches for the waste torpedo tubes, a recontoured sail with an enclosed bridge, a new under-ice sonar fairing on the sail itself, and a navigation light up on the forward top corner of the sail above the bridge. From the side, the changes to the 667AT become more apparent. The eponymous notch is really readily visible, as are these distinctive hips after the waste torpedo tubes, along the transition from hull to hump, and the recontoured front and rear of the sail. Their sensor suite consists of a primary MGK-400 shark-gill sonar, the non-acoustic detection system, and specialized under-ice navigation sonar and cameras. They received the Tobel 667AT navigation system, as well as other specialized systems for targeting and launching the SS-21 cruise missile. Finally, they also received an upgraded torpedo handling system for the waste tubes to allow them to reload faster than normal. Unique in almost every way, I think the Yankee Notch could have presented some very interesting tactical opportunities, perhaps able to function as an underwater arsenal ship, slinging SSN-16 Stallion anti-submarine missiles at targets found by more modern capable boats and sonars. The other SSGN conversion in the Yankee family was the 667M Andromeda, or Yankee Sidecar. It was designed around the massive P750 or 3M25 Grom, meaning Thunderbolt, NATO SSNX-24 Scorpion, nuclear-tipped hypersonic submarine-launched cruise missile. These missiles had a range of around 3,000 kilometers and a megaton-class warhead. Only a single boat of Project 667M was converted, K420, and she re-entered service in 1983. She spent the remainder of her career scaring the bejesus out of NATO and launching missiles to support the Scorpion's ongoing test program before it was cancelled. Without a main armament, she was scrapped in the late 1990s. The modifications done to the Project 667M consist of a whole new midsection of the ship, giving her hips that truly don't lie. They contain 12 forward-angled launch tubes for the SSNX-24 Scorpion cruise missile. She is about 21 meters longer than a standard Yankee 1 after conversion. Like the Yankee Notch, she retains the standard bow torpedo and sonar fittings. The most notable recognition feature for the Yankee Sidecar is the rather pronounced thickening amidships to contain the missile tubes, and the partially modernized sail. It has the same front contouring as the 667AT, but retains the older vertical rear. This picture of K420 in port shows just how prominent the missile tubes are in the similar sail to the Yankee Notch. Here, for comparison's sake, are two Yankee Notches docked alongside the Yankee Sidecar at the Scalzi submarine base on the Kola Peninsula. Note the very visible notches and the different tone of the 667AT boats, possibly due to the improved noise reduction that was part of their refit. Here is a third angle of the Yankee Sidecar, this time docked next to a Delta of some variation. One of the more interesting Yankee conversions was the Project 667AN, or Yankee Stretch. She received the same sail upgrades as the 667AT class, but was also lengthened to around 160 meters. She functioned as a submarine mothership during her career, being supplemented and then replaced by the Project 09787 Delta IV Stretch. Note that the designation SASN, Submarine Tender Nuclear, or SSAN, Auxiliary Nuclear Submarine, is provisional. There is not, to my knowledge, a proper U.S. Navy hull code for submarine motherships. As part of K411's modifications to 667AN standard, her missile armament and possibly also torpedoes were removed. Unlike the other Yankee variants, the best way to recognize Orenburg, the single boat in this class, seen here at Pierside in Yagelnaya Bay on the Kola Peninsula, is her immense length. An entire 115-meter-long Echo-class submarine appears to fit aft of the sail. Her replacement, Orenburg II, the Delta IV Stretch, looks similar, although with a longer hump. The next experimental Yankee class is Project 09774, or the Project 667AK, or the Axon 1, known to NATO as the Yankee Pod AGSSN, Auxiliary Nuclear Submarine. The single boat in this class was K403 Kazan, who had her weapons stripped to serve as a testbed for advanced sonar systems. Axon 1, or Yankee Pod, modified her with a towed array sonar and a tail pod, a recontoured bow with the MGK 540 Scat 3 or Shark Rib sonar, and a widened hull under the sail. This picture from Sudnikov shows her in the Sevmesh yards in 1984 and gives a better view of the modifications. Highlighted are again the new sail, widened hull, recontoured bow, and eponymous tail pod. These modifications allowed her to serve as a sonar and systems testbed for the third generation of Soviet nuclear submarines, especially the Victor IIIs. This next picture shows a closer view of K403's pod and propellers. Note again the pod's similarity to that of the towed array sonar on the Victor III, as well as the design of her screws. They're typical of the Yankee class in that they're of a relatively conservative non-skewback design. This type of screw is representative of all Yankee class boats and variants throughout their service lives. Later in life, K403 Kazan was modified into Project 09780 Axon 2, known to NATO as the Yankee Big Nose. The changes were so that she could serve as a hydrodynamic and sonar test platform for Soviet and later Russian fourth-generation nuclear submarines. Her sail, seen here, was completely changed and served as a prototype and technology demonstrator for the design of sail that now appears on the Project 955 Bore NATO Dolgoriki class SSBN. The Big Nose contains a very advanced sonar system. Known as Irtysh-Amfora to the Russians and possibly Shark Nose to NATO, it is currently deployed on the Project 885 Yasen, NATO Severodvinsk class, and Project 955 Bore, NATO Dolgoriki class boats. The modifications also included advanced quieting and cooling techniques and fiber optic cabling. Additionally, they may have installed a flank sonar system, possibly the Shark Hide. The entire sonar suite is regarded as roughly equivalent to the contemporary American BSY-1 and/or BQQ-5E systems. Despite possessing arguably the most capable sonar under the sea, and certainly the most capable non-American suite when she was relaunched in 1995, K403 was wholly unarmed. After lengthy trials through the late 1990s and early 2000s, she was decommissioned in 2004 and scrapped 2009 to 2010. In 1992, K-137 Leninets, or Leninist, the first Project 667A SSBN, conducted the Yankee class's last deterrent patrol. For 25 years and over 600 patrols, the Project 667A and derivatives served as the backbone of the Soviet at-sea deterrence force. The majority of the Yankee-class boats were decommissioned by 1995, and all of them were dismantled by 2015. The 34 boats in class formed the most numerous SSBN class in history. Their modifications helped test systems and designs for later generations of Soviet missile and attack submarines, and pioneered features including sail shapes, towed and spherical sonar arrays, solid fuel SLBMs, and non-bow torpedo tubes which prominently feature on the latest and greatest Russian submarines. K-561 Kazan, the lead boat of the newest Project 855M modernized Yasen class, bears the same namesake as the Yankee bignose K-403 Kazan, a fitting legacy for one of, if not the most influential class of nuclear submarine the Soviets and Russians ever put to sea. With all boats scrapped by 2015, what remains of the Yankee class? While no complete example was preserved as a museum, the following have their sails on display as monuments. K-411 Orenburg, Project 09774 Yankee Stretch, in Koltushi, Leningrad Oblast, Russia. K-430, Project 667AU Nalim, Yankee 1 in Vladivostok, Primorsky Krai, Russia. K-434, Project 667A Naviga, Yankee 1 in Bolshoi Kamen, Primorsky Krai, Russia. K-423, Project 667AT Grusha, Yankee Notch in Krasavino, Vologda Oblast, Russia. And finally, K-403 Kazan, Project 09780 Axon 2, Yankee Big Nose in Great Patriotic War Victory Park, Kazan, Republic of Tatarstan, Russia. Other than that, all that's left are the reactor compartments, quietly sitting in storage sites such as this one, in Saida on the Kola Peninsula. Thank you for watching. My sources are in the description below.